Okay, we have gone ahead and launched Hack the Box. We're going to start Valentine, so you can go ahead and connect your VPN, and then you can go ahead and launch the box Valentine. And when you're ready, you can come over here and type in ping 10.10.10.79. Make sure you're connected, and go ahead and close out of that. And then we can go ahead and get started with our nmap scan. That's usually where we start off. So you can go ahead and type in nmap, and we're going to not run that script. We're going to go p-p for all ports, and then -a, and then I like to run it with a -v so I can see the output as it runs like this. And it's going to go ahead and run, and I believe these are all the ports that come up. I've already ran this, so we can go ahead and give this a look. And we have port 22, port 80, and port 443. This is actually the vuln scan that I ran, so we'll go ahead and I'll show you what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and run it like this. We'll go nmap dash, and it should pop up, dash script. It did not pop up. Vuln 10.10.10.79. And when you run that, it takes a little bit to run. And so I'll go ahead and let it run, and we'll see if it pops up by the time we are ready to look over it. So we have port 80 and we have port 443. So what we can do is come up here and just go ahead and look at the web page. We'll go ahead and look at the source to see if there's anything in there. There is not. You guys are pretty familiar at this point with how to look at web pages. So we'll go HTTPS and see if there's anything different. Go ahead and advance, accept the risk, and continue. And it's the same, and you can go ahead and do like your basic robots.txt. One of the things I like to do is go index.php, and that will tell me if there's if I need to run my GoBuster with a .php extension. A couple of things I like to do when I run my scans, I like to run a GoBuster, and that looks okay. We'll go ahead and just use this one that's up, and we'll run a 10.10.10.79. And when you run a GoBuster, because it had that index.php, we'll need to run the extension PHP and see what it pulls up. And then I also like to run fuff because it runs way faster. And we can go ahead and run 10.10.10.79. And when we go to the word list, just in case you haven't run this before and you don't have it saved, the way to get there, the word list I like to use, I believe it is in user share word list, derb, and then we'll go ahead and run that. And then you can run common.txt or big, and then the other one that's popular is dirbuster, and then the medium, so this one right here. This is how you get your word list, and yours will probably be in the same place. Why does that say we have a problem? Oh, we forgot to put our place to fuzz, so we'll go ahead and fuzz right there, and you can see just how quick this is running. So we have dev, index, let's see if let me close that one. PHP one is found the same, dev, index, index.php. So we'll check back on this later, but for now the nmap quit running, and since we ran our vuln scan along with our nmap, we can go ahead and look and see what it has come back with. We see that it's vulnerable here to this, and then heartbleed is vulnerable, and SSL poodle. So when you see heartbleed, and given that we are looking at this bleeding heart, that's where we're going to go ahead and attack. So with heartbleed, the way it works, and I actually think there's a guy who explains it on this website here, and we'll see if if it's still up. Yes, so this is how heartbleed works. So when you send a request to the server, you'll send a request like this. You want to see how many letters does potato have. It'll give you the response, and you can go how many is in bird, gives you the response. But the way it works is if you say, I want the word hat with 500 letters, it will send you the word hat with everything after it. This is where you're going to try and exploit heartbleed, is you're going to try and find some kind of credentials or sensitive information. So we're going to send a request to the server saying we want something 3 to 5 letters, whatever it may be, in the exploit, and then ask it to return everything for 500 letters or 1,000 characters afterward, and it's going to send us back that information and see what we can find. Okay, I feel like this is a great time to pause the video and ask for you to please subscribe if you are enjoying the content from this video and you have found it helpful. We'll go ahead and you can go to Heartbleed and then GitHub, and there is a GitHub page that should have this, yeah, right here. So one of the things when I go to GitHub, I think I've mentioned this before and I will probably mention it again. When I go to a GitHub page, one of the first things I look at is how many stars, how many forks, and then I like to read the comments because I want to see quickly, is there anything, is this exploit going to do anything fishy on my virtual machine? And I've already ran this and it doesn't. One of the other things, if you are a programmer, you can go through and read the code and make sure it's not going to do anything fishy. I've already looked it over. Like I said, I've already ran it, so I know this is the one we need. And you can actually copy this to your virtual machine a couple different ways. You can come up here and you can go to the raw and you can highlight it all. You can copy it. You can make your own file. This is how I usually go about it. And then we'll call it heart.py. I paste it in here, I save it, and I'm done. And that's how I go about it. You can also come up here. I think you can copy link location and run a wget on this. And then it will also grab right here, the exact same thing. So a couple different ways you can get it. Usually, sometimes exploits will have like super long names that I don't want to retype, and so I just go to raw, I copy it, and I'll just name it like exploit.py, in this case heart.py, and save it. And now the way we go about running this, we'll go ahead and actually open it back up. Gedit heart.py. And so actually at the end of the exploit code is where it's going to run. I thought it was at the end. It's right here. So right here's where we're going to make the request, and it's going to send, this is the link that we need, and then this is the payload link. And I think this hex right here is 4,000 characters. So when we run this, we're going to go ahead and run it as Python -n100, and if you remember from up here, it actually tells us if we want to run this a number of times in a loop instead of writing our own for loop to run this over and over. And then we can go ahead and run it, and it's going to run, and then it will give us our output. And while that runs, we can see here's what Fuff has brought back, and you can see how much faster it is than GoBuster. and GoBuster has brought back these. This one is one that looks interesting. So does Decode Dev would always be super interesting to go look at, but it actually has a, looks like the page is forwarding to another page. So we can come back here and look to see what we have. Okay, that did not bring back anything interesting. So go ahead and check dev. We have notes, and there's nothing interesting there. And then we can go to hype key, and this looks like it is encrypted with hex. And if you look at these, I think that is a line break for ASCII. So if I come across this and I didn't know what it was, a lot of penetration testing is literally trial and error and reading a ton on GitHub. And so it's just the nature of the beast. You're just going to have to read, and you're just going to have to experiment. I've actually already done this box, and so I know what we're going to do here. But you'll get used to seeing like what is this and why am I seeing that at the beginning, and you'll just know this is going to be hex to ASCII, and then you can just go ahead and run those. So you can actually come up here and go hex to ASCII. A lot of times I'll use a burp decoder. The problem is it doesn't have that option. So you can paste this in here and you can run convert, and this looks like an SSH key. So go ahead and copy it, and this is finished running. We'll go ahead and save this as gedit. What did it have it saved as? Hype key. So we'll go hype.key. We'll go ahead and paste that in. And before we forget, we'll need to change the mode on it. So hype key, so that way we can run it when we try to SSH. So if we were SSHing here, we'd go SSH hype at, and then the IP address 79. I forgot to add the -i, which means we're going to use a key, and we're going to use hype key. And if this is the first time you've ran this, you're probably going to get asked, do you want to fingerprint the box? And you will say yes. And it's loading. And it's asking for a passphrase, which we don't have. And so if you hit enter, 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 it doesn't work. But when we ran our heartbleed and we got all this information here, this is a double equals, and typically when something ends with a double equals, it's base 64, which I actually think I have this pasted in over here. Yeah. So we have this base 64. You can come over here, go decode base 64. It might be on hex. You can go ahead and click onto text, and then your code you need to remember is heartbleed. One of the things I always do is I have a notes. I'll go like this, and I'll copy this, and I will paste it, and then I have the encoded and then the actual password. Save it, so that way I have it for future references, and I will go ahead and try to SSH again, and then we're going to feed it in this password whenever it finishes loading. And it says we're in. So we are on the box. Okay, we are ready for our privilege escalation. There are a couple of different ways you can escalate with root privileges on this box. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm hoping that no one else has done these because it can kind of mess things up, and I did not revert the box. So if you haven't started yet, or you just want to risk it, you can go ahead and start without reverting the box like we're about to do. We've gone ahead and SSH'd in. We are on the machine. And we're going to start out with the easy one. So we'll go ahead and we're gonna run linps. And so what we're gonna do is come over to, I keep everything in my tools directory, and you can go ahead and wherever you have it, you can go ahead and head over to that location. We will need to host it up with a simple HTTP server. And this just makes it so whenever we make a wget, we can get the folder or the file that is within this folder. And now that is up and going. There's two places I like to get folders to whenever I'm on a machine. I either will use their downloads or their temp folder, and because we're already in the hype directory, we'll just go ahead and cd into the downloads. And I don't think there's going to be anything in here, and so we'll run a wget, and we'll go ahead and type in my IP, which I believe is 1415, and it works. So we'll go ahead and run that and see what it pulls down. Now right away, this gets pulled down. Our version gets pulled down for the kernel. So what we'll do is you can copy this. I would just grab this whole thing, the OS version. I'd copy this and I'd go over to Google and paste it in, and you can read and see what this is vulnerable to. And we're gonna go ahead and run an exploit. I've already done that to see what this is vulnerable to. And we're gonna do that one second. The first and easiest is when you come across here, you see this tmonk session is running as root. And if you're familiar with tmonks, you're familiar with this command right here. So the first way to grab this is really simple. So if you had never done this before and I had never done this before and I saw this, I would probably just Google and paste this. I'd just paste this straight into Google. Maybe look at this right here and paste it into Google and read and see if there's anything I can do with it, because it is highlighted. But because we know how to use this, you can go ahead and copy this to hijack this tmonk session that's owned by root. We'll go ahead and cancel that, and you can literally just paste this in and hit enter, and you are root, and so you have root privileges. And so we can go ahead and exit that. That's one way to get root privileges. The other way is through, let me check what I got here. Okay, the other way is through the dirty cow exploit. So if you remember, we were just talking about the OS version. If you go out and Google this version, you'll find that it's vulnerable to the dirty cow exploit. So we can come over to Google. If you type in dirty cow exploit GitHub, you can go ahead, click the first one, and we see that it's got pretty good reviews. You can read through the code if you can understand C and check to see what's in here and how it runs. I'm going to go ahead and run it. I've run this before. I've run it on other boxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the link location. We are going to check to make sure the box has GCC. It says that there is no input files. So this box has GCC on it, so it can compile the exploit for us. Sometimes they won't have GCC, and you'll have to do it on your actual Kali machine and then pull over the executable file onto the vulnerable server. But because we have GCC here, we're going to go ahead and run this wget on the location we just copied. And then it tells us what to do. It's going to make a default user, and to compile it, we run this script right here. Once it gets done, actually, now that I'm remembering, this machine actually won't run a wget off of this GitHub page. So we have to run the wget, since I copied something else, to our Kali machine, paste, and then we need to run our simple server again, and then we run our wget off of our own box. Oops, 14, 15, I think it saves as dirty.c. And it says that it grabbed it. So we can go ahead and close out of that. Now we can go ahead and GCC this. And if you ls, you should see we have the executable here. And then it tells you this is how to run it. You can either go like this and it'll have no password, or you can run it dirty with some password. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna opt for the second. I'm gonna go /dirty, and then I'll just type in, we'll hit enter, it'll ask for a password, we'll type in pass, and it says that it's been added. I don't know why, but mine always seems to hang there. And then if we switch users to Firefart, the new user, and we type in pass, then we can see that it has made a new user with root privileges. That is the second way to solve this box. What I would recommend is waiting a few days and coming back and trying to do this again once it's not quite as fresh in your memory, so that way you can get used to going through the steps of researching, pulling over tools, and compiling the exploits. All right, I'll see you in the next video.